My name is Allie Brandriet. I'm an instructional designer with Auburn Online at Auburn University. I am really excited to share how we at Auburn Online use data to drive our continuous improvement process for our online courses. A little bit about me is that I have a background in both STEM as well as education research. So I tend to be very passionate about this idea of leveraging data to enhance student learning experiences. So for today, I'm going to walk you through Auburn Online's structured continuous improvement process and highlight how we uncover insights that can guide our course design and development decisions. So with that, let's get started. What I'm about to discuss today, I could absolutely have never accomplished alone. So I'd like to start by mentioning our absolutely amazing team at Auburn Online. Auburn Online is one of 4 units within the Biggio Center for the Enhancement of Teaching and Learning at Auburn University. My role as an instructional designer on the Auburn Online team is to collaborate closely with subject matter experts, which at a university tends to be faculty, where I leverage my expertise in learning theory, evidence-based pedagogical practices to eventually create online courses. But like I said, I absolutely do not work in isolation. I rely very much on the shared knowledge and expertise of an amazing team who together we bring these courses to life. So next, I'd like to provide a little bit of context about the continuous improvement process. At Auburn Online, we engage in a variety of project types, from e-learning activities to extended reality. However, our primary home is in online asynchronous course design and development. Here is a general outline of our design and development process, from the needs analysis to design, development, implementation. And then the cornerstone of this presentation is that continuous improvement process, which during the continuous improvement phase, we dive deep into data analysis to uncover insights to inform our course enhancement process. So rather than kind of a one-time evaluation, we've structured this into a multi-year cycle where we have 3 years of continuous improvement that a course may go through. Continuous improvement usually starts the semester before the next year the course launches, so before the course launches a second time. And the instructional designer and the faculty member will engage in a very highly collaborative process to work together to make revisions. Then the course may undergo 3 years of continuous improvement, where each year a new set of data is collected and reviewed. So to take a closer look at our 3-year cycle, in year 1, we focus on learning analytics and student feedback, like Canvas data, like assignment scores. We focus on Panopto analytics, which relates to video usage in the course. We use Qualtrics to receive student feedback through surveys. In year 2, we focus a little bit more in depth on a design review. Here we work with the Office of Academic Insight, who is our assessment office on campus, to collaborate with faculty to align their individual course assignments to program-specific learning outcomes. We also conduct a workload estimation, which is an estimation of the student's time on task for all the activities and all the modules throughout the course. Next, we work with Auburn University's Lab for Usability, Communication, Interaction, and Accessibility, or LUCIA, where we work with them to conduct interviews on how students interact with our courses. We also conduct a focus group with students from within a program to get feedback. And then in year 3, we work on this quality certification phase of the continuous improvement process, where we develop an instructor guide for a smooth implementation of the course for future semesters, as well as apply 2 rubrics to provide feedback on the course, including the overall course design, as well as the community and belonging aspects of the course. So before I jump into the data, I'd like to take a quick second to talk about why this is important. So I want to bring up this idea of personal empiricism, or it's essentially using one's experience as data. And I would argue this really informs the need for the continuous improvement process. And this isn't a term I made up. It shows up in the literature and it can be explored further if you're interested. And while I want to say that personal experience is 100% valuable, relying on it solely limits the depth of the possible conclusions we can make about a course and about the revisions necessary for a course. This idea of using evidence to improve practice is absolutely not new. Online platforms have provided us rich access to data sources like Canvas and Panopto data, which can help uncover insights. But finding resources like time and tools and structured processes can be very, very challenging. So conversations like this, I think, are particularly important because today we're going to talk about some of the practical, actionable ways that we can make data-informed course improvements. So that way we can move into this realm of evidence-focused practice and revisions to a course. So moving forward today, I'll be sharing some specific examples and experiences organized into 4 key areas: taking a holistic view of the data, empowering student voice, the importance of faculty collaboration and trust as part of the process, as well as the need for process personalization. One of the key benefits of our continuous improvement process is the ability to build upon these findings year after year, allowing us to validate trends and keep important conversations rolling in the long term. So, for example, I'd like to show you some data that we collected from year 1 of the continuous improvement process. This is Canvas analytics data. On the y-axis is the frequency of the Canvas views. We believe that this data correlates with students' engagement with Canvas. Along the x-axis is essentially a timeline throughout the course, from the beginning to all the way to the end of the course. Superimposed on top of that timeline is the module unlock dates for each module in the course. So as an example, Module 0 unlocked at the beginning of the semester and was open for a week. Module 1 then unlocked after that week, and then a week later, Module 2 unlocked, and et cetera, throughout the entire semester. One thing to keep in mind is that after a module unlocked, it remained unlocked for the rest of the semester. When looking at this Canvas engagement data across the entire semester, I noticed 3 what I would say are noticeable peaks. One might say that there might be a 4th notable peak over here as well, which is possible, but for the sake of this conversation, let's just focus on these 3 for right now. So looking at this, it then begs the question of what is going on with the students at these specific points in the semester that the engagement is so high relative to the typical baseline throughout the semester. So now I'd like to compare this to data we collected in year 2 of the continuous improvement process. This is a graph of the workload estimation that we estimated for students' time on task for all the activities within the modules within the course. And these are very intentionally lined up. So let me add some columns just to help line up the modules across both graphs. And let me kind of show you what this means for just a minute. Right here would be approximately when Module 2 unlocked for the students, and it's open for that week. This is the time that we'd estimate it would take students to complete the activities within that module. So that is how they're lined up. One thing that's also really important to note about this course is that any assignment that was unlocked with a module wasn't due in the week of the module. It was due the following week at the beginning of the week. So all assignments in Module 2 would have been available to the students all week, and then they were due that following week, which is why we have this really large peak. It's actually aligned with the due dates for the Module 2 assignments. And so one thing we noticed about the workload estimation graph is that when we go from Module 1 to Module 2, we kind of see this really big jump in time. So what we believe is that the students maybe appeared to be struggling to keep up with that heavier workload that kind of showed up in Module 2, 3, and 4, leading to this increase in activity as they tried to catch up. Essentially, we believe the students may have been taken off guard and struggled to plan as a result of the big difference between Module 1 and then to Module 2. So armed with this multi-data perspective, we were then able to work collaboratively with the instructor, and we discussed ideas like redistributing workload or sending announcements to help prepare the students, or providing time estimates at the beginning of the module. All of these with the intention of helping the students plan for the increased workload that existed within these modules. Next, let me show you another example of how we've compared multiple data sources. Here, we use student feedback to lend support to a quantitative analysis. Let me explain this table that's on the screen. This is a list of assignments that are in a particular course, where the assignments in this course are categorized by 4 different categories. We have discussion assignments, we have reading assignments, case study assignments, and professional assignments. In the far left column is the module in which that assignment is located. So as an example, Module 1 included a discussion assignment where 5% of the students didn't provide a response to that discussion. 5% provided a response but did so late, and 90% of the students responded on time for that specific assignment. And that is true for all the assignments throughout the course. When comparing the percentage of students that responded to the assignment on time for each one of these categories, I see a slight dip in the reading assignments relative to the discussions, the case studies, and the professional assignments. Now, it's a very slight dip, and it's hard to tell if this truly is a signal that needs to be looked at closer, or if it's just a slight anomaly. But when we compare this to the student feedback data, one thing that we noticed is that students had a lot of really good things to say about the other assignments in the course. They love the case studies, they love the discussions, the student responses describe them as relevant and applicable to the real world, but there seemed to be some concern about the reading assignments where the students were struggling to see how these were relevant and relatable to them. So armed with this insight, it gave us the opportunity to work with this faculty member to try to make the value of these assignments more transparent to the students. The reading assignments had value, but it was difficult for the students to see it. It also gave us the opportunity to talk about how could we revise these prompts to make these assignments more meaningful to the students. As an instructional designer, it can be very easy to get caught up in what needs to be improved about a particular course, but it's just as important to recognize and even celebrate what is already working well. So let me show you an example of 4 themes from a particular program that's based on over 1,000 student responses to our Qualtrics feedback survey. Students in this program really appreciated engaging content. They found the content interesting, relevant, and that there was a variety of it presented. So as a representative student quote, "I very much enjoy this class and the way the material is presented. There's just the right amount of reading material and multiple opportunities to think critically and objectively about a variety of topics." Students also described that they really appreciated real-world application, whether it was applying knowledge to case studies, scenarios, or relevant real-world examples. As an example, the student describes, "We are tackling the real-world problems of today, and this is precisely what enticed me to enroll at Auburn. The ability to discuss what I'm learning as both current and relevant to members of the workforce is why I rate this course and this week in particular so highly." Third, the students describe that they appreciate clear, easy to navigate, and consistent module structures. This student describes that they appreciate the consistency in how the information is presented, so they're not confused about expectation, which makes a lot of sense. And finally, the students really appreciated interactivity. In this program, we had a variety of interactive elements, including H5Ps, visuals, practice questions, videos, activities, etc. This student describes, "I really like the questions at the end of the modules and would love more of them. I also enjoy the videos interdispersed, which this module did well." By highlighting all of these positive aspects and acknowledging the faculty's hard work in developing them, we create a collaborative and growth-oriented environment. It also ensures that we don't inadvertently alter valuable course elements during the improvement process. The continuous improvement process allows us to directly impact courses based on student feedback. In this example, the data revealed that the clarity of the instructions, particularly around major course assignments, may need to be looked at closer. When you're deeply familiar with the course, it can be very easy to overlook issues with clarity and communication. So to address this, we actually used AI to analyze our assignments and the instructions and identify areas that needed more context and detail. Based on AI's feedback, we restructured the prompts to provide clear guidelines, submission requirements, and direct alignment to the overall course project. By uncovering this issue using student feedback, we were able to leverage students' voices and AI tools to help recommend to our faculty what we think will be a very high impact practice for this course design. Building trust with our faculty partners is essential to the success of our continuous improvement process. We've found that being transparent with data-driven insights is key to fostering this collaboration. When we present faculty with evidence from student performance, engagement, and feedback surveys, they're more likely to understand the rationale behind the potential course changes that we're recommending. This openness creates a sense of shared ownership, where the faculty has the potential to feel empowered to refine their course right alongside us. Additionally, this helps us humanize the course design process, encouraging faculty to view it as an ongoing, iterative process rather than a one-time event. By embracing a growth mindset, faculty may feel more confident in making adjustments and more receptive to the continuous improvement cycle. To make our continuous improvement process more efficient, we've leveraged automation in several ways. The process has the potential to be very time-consuming, so making it efficient is key. For example, our team developed a data bot to automatically pull data from Canvas and Panopto, outputting it into a format that we can directly import into an Auburn University protected report generation tool. The instructional designer still needs to interpret the data and provide recommendations, but we've removed some of the busy work that's associated with finding and compiling and visually representing the data. So this allows the instructional design team to focus on interpreting insights and providing meaningful recommendations, rather than putting the time into trying to generate the report itself. Additionally, we're currently exploring the use of AI to further streamline our processes, such as generating draft text reports or identifying key themes in student feedback. The key here, though, is to find the right balance between automation and human judgment to ensure that our continuous improvement process remains effective and meaningful. Also, ethical considerations really come into play here. For any sensitive student data, we always use an Auburn University protected and secured AI chatbot to make sure that the data is protected, it's not saved, it's not used to train a model, and it's not going to become available to unauthorized users. And finally, while our continuous improvement process is structured into a 3-year cycle, we've learned that different courses and programs have different needs at different times. So we're currently exploring kind of this more flexible buffet style approach to data analysis, where a particular program coordinator or faculty member can kind of pick and choose the services that they might need for a particular course. So stay tuned, we can provide an update on this in the future. Thank you for staying with me all the way until the end of this presentation. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge our wonderful students who have provided feedback and data, the faculty who have worked alongside us as we all learned and grew through this experience, all of my Auburn Online team members who've contributed so much to this process, as well as the Auburn University Big Yo Center. And then, of course, I'd like to thank you as a viewer, again, especially if you've made it all the way to the end of this video. I hope the examples and strategies I've shared today have inspired you to consider how data-driven instructional design can benefit your own work.